Her people left her behind, but a human carried her through the darkness. The last shuttle rose like a second moon, a pale disk swallowed by ash. In the ruins below, the wind pressed smoke through broken corridors and rattled signs that no one would read again. Lyra lay half-buried beneath a collapsed beam in the service tunnel, her ankles screaming with every heartbeat. The beacon on her vest blinked a final red and died. Protocol had been clear. If you are not at the platform at 0200, you have missed the evacuation. No one turns back. She had been raised to believe in rules, in formations, in the calculus of survival. But when she heard the shuttle engines fade, something in her chest untethered. Lyra pressed her fingers to the ridges of her throat, feeling the old prayer there, a shape of sound that meant "don't let me disappear." Footsteps found her instead of an answer. They were steady, human, not the clipped march of her own people, not the skittering of the scavengers that haunted the blackout zones. A figure came into view, a lamp haloing his hair in gritty light. He was taller than her kin, shoulders wrapped in a stained coat, a coil of cable slung across his chest. "Hey," he said, voice careful. "You're alive." Barely. Her mouth was too dry to hold sarcasm. "My ankle." He knelt, eased the beam aside with a grunt and a pry bar, and freed her foot. She bit the inside of her lip until the stars in her vision steadied. He checked the swelling with gentle fingers. When she flinched, he winced with her, as if pain could transfer through skin. "Name's Jonah," he said. "Maintenance tech." Or was. "You've got 3 choices, Luminous. Wait here and hope no one worse finds you. Try to hop on that ankle until you pass out, or let me carry you." "I weigh more than I look," she warned. "I'm stubborn," he countered, as if that were the heavier thing. He slid his arms beneath her, one behind her shoulders, one beneath her legs, and lifted. Lyra gasped despite herself. His heat soaked through her torn uniform. The world tilted but did not fall. He adjusted her weight, and the cable on his chest clinked like a promise. They moved through the Undercity, where the last light was fungus blue and water dripped in an endless metronome. Old ventilation fans, long dead, were tattooed with grease. Every dozen meters, they paused so Jonah could catch his breath, and Lyra could tell him which way the tunnels curled beneath streets now unfriendly to feet. "You know the maps?" he asked. "I helped design the evacuation route," she said, shame and pride warring in her voice. "We told everyone these tunnels were safe. We told them we would get them all out." He didn't say, "You failed." He just shifted her higher against his chest and started walking again. At a junction, a faint, insectal buzzing reached them, growing into a hard light. A patrol drone, its sensors combing the dust. Jonah ducked into a maintenance alcove the size of a coffin and pressed his back to the wall. Lyra felt his heartbeat through his shirt, a rapid drum. The drone's beam passed over the doorway, stopped, returned. Lyra swallowed, closed both her eyes, and did something she hadn't done since she was a child. She sung the smallest note her throat ridges could make, a sound below hearing, a trick her elders had used to confuse sonar in the water cities. The beam hesitated, shuddered past, and drifted away. Jonah breathed out. "Remind me to thank you properly later. Carry me out of here," she said, "and we will trade 1,000 thanks." He smiled with half his mouth, like a man unused to hope but not opposed to it. They made a camp for an hour beneath a cracked shaft where dawn seeped down like smoke. Jonah set her carefully on the dry side of a broken pipe, wrapped his coat around her, and tugged at the laces of his boots. Her ankle throbbed, purple now beneath pale skin. He tore strips from his shirt and bound her foot. His fingers quick, competent. "Who did you carry before me?" she asked, because the motions were practiced. My little sister, he said without drama. Through the fire line last winter when the power grid died. Couldn't save the house, saved her. His hands stilled for a beat. She's on a farm inland now. Safer than this. And you stayed. Someone had to keep the lights on while everyone ran for the ships. He glanced up the shaft to where the thin dawn gathered weight. And someone had to see if there was anyone left. Lyra looked at him the way she'd looked at the first star she had ever seen from a planet's surface. Like the universe had a center that wasn't on any map. Jonah, she said, trying the syllables. They fit in her mouth like a promise. He touched her bound ankle one last time, testing the stability. Pain. Less than being forgotten. He didn't argue with that. The final climb was a broken ladder and a long, dark throat of concrete. Jonah slung the cable, secured it to a rusted bracket, and fashioned a harness around his waist. He lifted Lyra again. This time, she wrapped her arms around his neck without apology. Above, the world was a rasping wind and the faraway thunder of shuttles that were already gone. Twice his foot slipped. Twice he cursed softly and found his balance. Lyra pressed her face into his shoulder and told him stories in a whisper to keep the dark from collapsing. The blue tides of her winter sea, the taste of storm fruit, the song her mother had sung when the sun came back after the long nights. Keep talking, he said once when the cable creaked. She did. They burst into daylight like breaking the surface of a deep dive. The sky had that post-storm clarity that makes every edge cruel. The evacuation platform was a skeleton of scaffolds and yellow tape. Wind took the last of the smoke and made ghosts of it. For a moment, silence was the loudest thing. Then a streak cut the sky, arrowing toward them. Sleek silver, marked with the seal of Lyra's people. A shuttle that had turned back. Lyra's throat tightened. She had not planned for this. She had only planned for the dark, for the steps, for the next breath. The shuttle landed with a sigh, doors irising open, the ramp lowering like a tongue tasting the wind. A sergeant descended, helmet tucked beneath one arm. His gaze swept the ruined platform, snagged on Lyra, and flicked to Jonah. Officer Lyra, he called, formal even now. We accounted for you too late. Protocol allowed a return. He didn't look at Jonah when he added, civilians can wait for ground transport. Jonah stiffened almost imperceptibly. He eased Lyra to her feet, keeping a hand under her elbow. She has a name, he said, voice level as steel. And she didn't get here on a protocol. The sergeant's expression pinched. We are grateful for your assistance. Lyra looked between them. The man who had carried her through a city's broken spine and the man who spoke with the measured weight of her rank, and felt the scale of the decision that was not a decision at all. She leaned into Jonah just enough to balance. You turned back, she said to the sergeant. That matters. But he never turned away. Color rose under the sergeant's cheekbones. We leave in 3 minutes. Lyra took Jonah's hand before she knew she would. Come with me. He blinked, a flicker of fear and something that might be wonder. I fix wires, he said. I don't know your stars. You know how to carry the heaviest things, she said softly. That is rarer. Wind tugged at his hair. He looked past her at the shuttle's open mouth, then back at the city's broken teeth, the tunnels yawning like old wounds. When he finally nodded, it felt like the inevitable confirmation of a truth already spoken. Together they climbed the ramp. At the threshold, Lyra paused and looked down into the shadowed maw of the stairwell they had conquered. The darkness was still there, patient as gravity. She squeezed Jonah's fingers and felt him squeeze back. My people left me behind, she said, not to wound but to mark the miles they had walked. But a human carried me through the darkness. Then let's go where there's light, Jonah said. The shuttle doors sealed. Engines woke. As the ground fell away and the city became a gray map beneath them, Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. The rules of evacuation had been math. The shape of survival, she understood now, was a person. Outside the window, the sky widened. When the shuttle turned its nose toward the clean edge of the horizon, it felt less like leaving and more like arriving.